Jeff from Two Hacks Garage. Well, back at Jimmy's, working on Project Jumping Jack Flash. That's soon to be Nostalgia Front Engine Dragster. We're back on a lot of the little things, guys. You saw us make a whole bunch of progress on getting this chassis built out, finish welding, all that type of fun jazz. Last video, well, it was an all-day affair of actually getting a shifter mount made for this, and also our parachute pack mount and the actual shroud mount put into place. So before we actually paint this chassis, there's still a lot of stuff we got to weld on. Some of it being Zeus fasteners for the bottom of for the aluminum plating, and also something pretty cool. You always see on an engine that it's got breathers and all that. Well, on these dragsters, it does produce, I'm not going to call it blowby, but it does produce a lot of vapors that are going to push through. And seeing it's in front of you, height of your head, you don't want those vapors, all those gases coming out, oil, whatever, and hitting you in the helmet, hitting you in the face, and getting it all foggy, nasty, oily, gross. So what do? Well, Jimmy's got a really cool idea, and he did this on previous dragsters that he's built. So what you do is off those breathers, you actually have tubes that go to the chassis, and there's little 1-inch pipes that we're going to cut holes in the chassis, and Jimmy's already working, by the way. I'm rambling. You're going to cut 2 1-inch holes in the chassis, put little pipes in there out of chromoly, weld those into place, and what happens is on that, those tubes that are going to go from the breathers actually to those little pipes that we're going to put into the chassis, it routes all those gases and everything into the chassis tube, and it's going to come back this way, and there'll be 2 other holes here that's going to go into kind of like a canister overflow tank style thing. Also with that is in the front of this, we're going to tap 2 holes in the front, and it'll have 2 pipe plugs in there, and we'll be able to seal that up. What that'll allow us to do, guys, is if anything does get in here, we can actually tilt this forward and actually drain it. So just kind of recap. So all your blow-by, all your gases, everything that would naturally come out of breathers like you see on the valve covers, all those gases, all that nasty stuff that is pushed out through these engines is actually going to go through some tubing, like just rubberized tubing, into 2 little, probably 1 or 2 inch chromoly tubings that are going to be holes in the chassis welded into place. It'll push itself back here. We'll have the same design in the back here with two pipes coming out of it. That's going to go into an evap canister. One thing kind of neat about that is Jimmy's going to build that himself, but our goal with this one is, seeing we do need to get this chassis painted, we need to get all those holes cut. We need to get all the little 1 to 2 inch pipes made for that so everything can attach. That way we can get it welded into place. So at some point we can make that actual overflow tank here in the back that's going to collect all that. And also up front, just in case stuff has a residual in here, we'll be able to drain it in the front. You got to remember, guys, this chassis is welded, it's sealed, so all those gases, it's low pressure. What Jimmy explained, low pressure, high volume, you want it to push back here and go into there. He's actually done that on previous chassis that he's built. It's actually a really good design. And what we're going to do, he's working. I'm rambling. So with that, guys.
The real problem is, on a front engine car, you're going down the track, got a lot of wind in your face, car's creating wind. Basically, you're flying through the air. And you're going forward and everything's passing you. So, with it all being said, like you have a breather on your car, on your street car, no big deal. It's under the hood. You got a windshield. You're in the driver's compartment. Nothing can get at you. But you need to pay attention where you're going. So I have had, at a high RPM, oil from the rocker arms are flipping real fast. It's not draining back as fast like it does on a regular car going down the road. Of course, the oil is thinner in a regular car going down the road. So with it all being said and done, and you got a lot of engine RPM going, you got some blow-by going, so pushes it out the breathers. It has to go somewhere. Guess what? Right in your face. Or on your helmet visor, or we're going to use a vintage fuel mask. I will wear one sometimes this summer, maybe mostly for publicity purposes, for pictures. But there again, it'll be on my goggles. So if it's contained and it's in the chassis, it goes back, bottom frame rail up to the behind the driver's seat and into what we call a puke tank. And then it's got a drain on it, so you can drain it whenever you want. So if you, and there again, if you blow a piston, you blow a head gasket, all that compression's got to go somewhere. It'll vent through the breather system, and along with it's going to be oil. And it's no big deal to drain the front end of it. You just jack the car up, front end's downhill, you pull the plugs on each side of the frame rail and it'll run out. If you leave it up in the air for an hour or two, it'll run out. But it's not going to rust anything, rot anything. It'll work just perfect. It has for years. I've been doing it for, I don't know, 40 years or more. So, and the big top fuel cars, if you notice, they have those big black hoses coming back from the valve covers, but they go into a huge tank behind the engine right above the rear end, and that's their so-called puke tank. They don't run it through the chassis. But we're not pushing 12,000 horsepower anymore. So have a good day.
So there's a better explanation than I could have given, but like I said, I'm talking, Jimmy's working. We need to get at it so our whole entire system here is going to work properly. It's going to be neat. He's been doing it for years. Once it's all said and done, we'll explain more on it. See you in a few. Real quick, guys, you can hear a bunch of noise in the background. Jimmy's working on milling some stuff, but we're digging out some of his race parts. These need to be cleaned up, all that fun type of jazz. We got new rings. We got a whole bunch of stuff already coming for the engine. It is small block Chevy. I'm not going to say the displacement, but these are Manley Super 70 aluminum rods, ARP hardware, and these are Venolia pistons. You can see the nice big bump they have on there. Makes a lot of compression. With the cylinder heads that we're going to be running on this, it's going to make approximately 14.2 to 1 compression. Just wanted to show you that. Pretty neat. Got to get these cleaned up and the rest of it ready to go. We do have an Ohio forged steel crankshaft for this that he's used. It's freshly turned and polished. And yeah, guys, just wanted to show you that little teaser. I'm not going to tell you the cubic inches, but it's going to be Hillborn injected and a lot of power. All right, well, we got one of the tubes already made. So we keep all of our extra chromoly chassis tubing that we have. And so basically what we're going to do down that way is we're going to drill 2 holes in the bottom of the chassis tubing. And what happens is Jimmy cut it to the diameter of the actual chassis tubing. So where that hole's at, let's just replicate it here. Those will come up like that and be welded. So from the valve covers, that tubing was going to go here to there, and it's going to push all of the gunk and stuff you don't want on your visor and everywhere else flying into here, into the chassis, back into the canister. With that, let's get back to work. All right, so here's kind of the finished product. I'll show you the rear too. This is the next morning. Jimmy's been working in the shop. I was still asleep. And still got to do the finishing welding on there and on the other one too. But we still got to do a whole lot of welding on this car, flip it upside down and all that. So we'll finish it then. But if you look here, that he started off with about a 1-inch pipe, and he turned it down in the lathe. That's so from the tubing from the breather to this can actually slip over it. And if you want to look down in there, there's the hole that it's going to go through. Got the other one here. So it's going to basically go from where the engine's going to sit from the breathers to there on each side. It travels back through here. And Jimmy warned me not to touch these because they're hot. And we got the same thing here and here. So there will be tubes that are going to come up to an evap canister here to collect vapors. Actually pretty slick idea. Really like it. You can look down in there, same thing. And we're going to show you something, how much air this actually draws. With that, let me show you that now. Even not being a sealed system right now, because that hole's open, and the two in the back are open. But this is a sealed system, so check this out. Jimmy's going to turn on a vacuum cleaner in the back, and I'm going to put a rag and watch. It's actually... So yeah, it's got quite a good amount of suction on that. So when this thing's...
Well, yeah, but you got 4 holes open, and I had to vacuum in one of them.
Yeah,
so 3 holes open.
So it's technically not a completely sealed system, but you can tell how well it works.
Well, you remember the valve covers will be pushing. You have 2 valve covers pushing air back here into both sides of the tank in case there's any vapor or moisture or oil vapor, which turns into liquid eventually if you get enough of it.
So yeah, that works pretty well. And what we need to do is we actually need to add the drains in the front. All right, so if you just saw, Jimmy and I are actually going to get back on what we call the little things. We do need to put the drain plugs in the front of the chassis. However, we do need to flip this at some point and do some more welding. So to be more efficient with it, we're going to do that when we do that. But now, since we got some time, in the last video, we made our parachute mount and brackets and all that. What we're going to do is we're going to use some scrap aluminum. It's 3/16, nice lightweight, but it's durable and it's not going to bend. And what we're going to do, since we have our parachute, is we're going to make our parachute release handle. We're just trying to get everything in place, welded where it needs to be, so we can finally get this blasted one more time and painted. But since we got our parachute mount and bracket and all that in, we need a handle, so if I need to use it, I can release it. So Jimmy's over there on the lathe working on some stuff. We got our scrap piece of aluminum we're going to work with for a handle, and we're going to get to work. See you in a few.
It ain't going to go fast enough for him to use it because I'm going to put a throttle stop on it, keep him from getting killed.
Yeah. He's going to put training wheels and a throttle stop on this thing. All right, so that is our budget-made in-house parachute release handle using scrap metal. Um, it's just bolted on there now. The whole premise of getting this in place is to get this welded in, so that part's done, so we can get one step closer to actually getting this painted. But
And thanks to somebody's design on the internet, I copied.
yeah, we just looked at some cool designs online and just drew it out. But yeah, so that is the parachute release. It's not, it's just mocked up right now. Like I said, the important part was getting the bracket tab on here that's solid piece tapped in place so we can get everything else welded. But we still got to finish this out. It'll probably get polished. We'll have to drill another hole for the actual Morse cable. And so, yeah, so basically when it's ready to go, pop, and there goes the parachute. So, yeah, got one more thing knocked off the list. We got our breather tubes for our evacuation system in place. Progress is good. Doing good. What do you think, Jimmy?
I think we ought to just get a fishing pole and start fishing the hell with drag racing. I'm old.
Jimmy says he's old, and we need to get rid of building drag cars and go fishing. With that, guys, we'll see you in the next one.